Hello. Today I want to talk about mobile experiences, more specifically with my Android phone. Some of the issues I ran into, which I'm sure a lot of other people run into as well. And it's one of these situations where everybody keeps changing phones all the time, and I'm one of these people. Not all the time, but every couple of years anyway. And as you can hear, my not so shiny anymore, but fairly new Galaxy S7 Samsung is chiming there, and basically, if you look at the memory situation with phones, we'll talk about storage for a bit here. Um, some phones come with 16 gigabytes of RAM, um, 16 gigabytes of memory, I should say, not RAM. RAM is 4 gigs in this phone, but 16 gigs of internal memory. Some phones come with 32, some phones come with 64. Uh, in most people that have been around anyway, they have 16 gigabyte phones. And if you consider the newest version of the Android that's eating up a little over 8 gigabytes, so that really doesn't leave much room at all for apps and data and things like that. And of course, some phones have SD cards, like my phone does too. But with SD cards, it's a little bit more awkward in terms of working with them because you have some speed issues potentially, depending on what kind of SD card you get. Also, some applications refuse to install on the SD card, so they have to use the internal memory. And so it's not, the SD card is a nice extra, a nice way to put some stuff, but it's really not the solution. So my recommendation is, if you're concerned about memory, definitely go with 64 gigabytes would be my recommendation for the phone if you're going to have a lot of apps. In my case, particularly, I don't have a ton of apps, but I have quite a few. Over the years, you collect certain things. New apps come out. You're starting to use new features, new capabilities, and it kind of just piles up, piles up, piles up. Next thing you know, you're out of room. And so, some of the things you can do are, for example, with photos. If you're using Google Photos, which is something I highly recommend, then of course all the photos automatically go to the cloud, which means you can delete them from your phone fairly shortly after you take them. And there's really not much downside to it, except for if you want to get to your photos locally without the internet or access to the internet. But for most phones, that's not a problem, so it's really not an issue. So that works okay. You just need to be constantly deleting photos on your phone, photos and videos, I should say. Otherwise, it eats up room really, really quickly. So that's one thing you can do to make a little bit more room. Second thing you can do is you can certainly limit. The other biggest factor is the number of apps that you have. And unfortunately, some of the apps wind up growing in room in terms of how much they consume based on their data. One specific example here would be Google Keep. And one of the reasons, actually the reason I actually uninstalled Google Keep, even though I love this app, was because it was growing, 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 and I was just constantly running out of room. I would literally take 10, 12 pictures or shoot a video, and then it tells me it's out of room, and you have to deal with storage, and you have things like my internal application for storing photos would tell me, the gallery they call it on Samsung, it says it's out of room. You open it up to try to delete photos, it tells you there's not enough room for it to even open it. So you can't even open it to delete pictures, and if you can't delete pictures, you're not going to get more room. So it's kind of like catch-22. So it's really the situation with storage is definitely problematic. Not to mention the fact that you have a zillion different icons potentially, unless you have all these folders all over the place with tiny, tiny little icons. So it makes it for a very difficult experience in terms of actual user friendliness, because I've seen many people have, you scroll through, they have 6, 7, 8 pages worth of icons, and it's impossible to find anything. So every time you need to look for something, you pretty much have to go to a search mode and try to find your app. And it's just not a good workable experience to really do this on a continuous basis. So the easiest solution, of course, is to get more memory. If the problem is with you running out of space, then obviously getting more internal memory is the solution. when you buy the phone. Once you bought the phone, it's not so easy to do that part, to increase that. It's not like a computer. So I'd recommend that if you buy a phone, if you don't use a lot of apps, 32 gigs should be enough. If you do use a lot of apps, I would recommend 64 gigabytes. Based on my personal using experience, I should have gotten 64 gigabyte phone. I didn't, I only got 32. So let's talk a little bit about that. So what do you do to free up space? Like we said, you can delete photos, you can delete videos, any other files. If you have large documents in Google Drive, things like that that you store for offline use on your phone, definitely get them out. So they're accessible only from the cloud, and that'll free up some room. So all of those things will free up some room. But essentially, or eventually, I should say, if you do have a setup where you have quite a few apps, you're going to have to delete some apps. And this is, I'm going to use one example here, which is Google Keep. But obviously, you can use the same approach with just about any app that qualifies. And I'll explain here shortly what I mean by qualifies. So with Google Keep, specifically why I deleted it was because I looked at Google Keep, during one of these sessions with, oh my God, I'm out of room. What can I delete? And keep in mind, my phone is only 6 months old. It's not like I've had the phone for a long time. This particular phone I bought in the beginning of the year. So it hasn't been that long, and it already was running out of room in less than 6 months in terms of storage. So Google Keep, when I looked to see what eats up room, Google Keep was one of these apps. Google Drive is another one. Google Sheets is another one. Google Slides is another one. All of these are really, really large. I mean, we're talking hundreds of megabytes worth of room being eaten by a single app like that. I'm not going to look right now, but if you look for yourself, you'll see on your phones what it eats. But more specifically, the Google Keep app was eating up over 400 megabytes on my phone. So if you look at it, I have a 32 gigabyte phone. Over 8 gigabyte of that storage was immediately eaten up by Android. So there's nothing I can do. It's system files. You cannot do anything with those. So now I'm down from 32 to 24 gigabyte. And from that 24 gigabyte, Google Keep alone, just a single app, is using up 400 megabytes, close to half a gig. So essentially, if you got 24, so half a gig comes out to what? 10% would be 2.5, so 1/5 of that. 2%, so 2% roughly, 2% of the phone storage was eaten up by one app. And so obviously you can't get too many apps this way if they're going to be of that kind of size. So what do? You need to delete them. And so I looked at it from a standpoint, I love Google Keep. It's a great app. I use it all the time, constantly use it. And that's the reason why my Google Keep is so huge, is because all the notes and everything, the way they do their storage apparently in Google Keep, is everything winds up being shown as part of this app, in terms of data being part of it. At least somewhat. It's got to be. I can't believe that the actual app is that huge if it wasn't for the data eating it up. And so what I did was I simply uninstalled it, and of course I got quite a bit of room back. And with that, the headaches with constantly running out of room went away. But the reason I was able to do it, and the reason I did pull the trigger there, specifically on that app, is because if you go to desktop version of Google Keep by going to keep.google.com, you basically have almost identical functionality with the desktop version of Google Keep. Okay, so I could just go to my Chrome browser and go to keep.google.com. And essentially, I have the same functionality that I have with the native app. The only difference is I'm eating up less than, I basically reclaim half a gigabyte of storage by doing that. And so when I used it like this a few times, I saw that I can totally use it. It's totally functional, totally capable. So there is really no reason to waste all the space on the phone by downloading. And of course, it's another thing, you need to download, upgrade, things like that, so you don't have to do any of that. So the moral of the story here is this: if you have any apps that have good functional versions on the desktop, in other words, web versions, I should say, not desktop, but web. If you can go to the web and you can access these apps directly from the web, from your browser, in other words, using the whatever URL they have, and the functionality is acceptable to what you need it to be, then you can easily uninstall that particular app from your phone and just use the web version. Okay. Of course, this is not going to work with everything because some apps can only be downloaded and installed to be used. One example would be Google Drive. You can't. When I tried to go to drive.google.com on my phone, it still forced me to go to download the app for whatever reason. They're kind of forcing the issue. So you cannot just go, even though there's definitely a web version of Google Drive on the phone, they don't allow you to use it. At least that's been my experience. There are some other apps, like for example, Google Slides, which is the presentation one. That's the one that I was thinking about doing it. I haven't tried doing it on the phone. My guess is probably not going to work too well. They probably will force me into the same situation. And to be honest, considering the speed of execution and what it's supposed to do, I don't think I'd want to run it with the non-native version of the app. So you have to look at it from all these standpoints and see exactly if there's a web version, how well does it work? Does it work on your phone? Do they even allow you to run on your phone? And if the answer to all those is yes, then you can easily uninstall the native app and save some room if you need it. I mean, obviously, if you don't need it, you don't need to do anything. But if you need it, that's what you do. Okay? So now I'm going to move on to the second part that I want to talk to you about today, which is, let me just jump into this little screen here. This is about using the desktop and the phone together in an environment. So right now, for example, I'm sitting on my desktop, and I got my nice 24-inch screen. I got actually two of them, and that's my normal working development work situation at home when I work on things. And of course, phone obviously is always present, and you do different things on the phone too. So how do you kind of mix the two together? Or how do you interact between the two? And before, there was not much interaction. There were some apps I tried, but they were kind of clunky for me, at least, in terms of how they operated, and they were just not something I wanted to switch to. Until I came across recently this app called Visor, spelled VYSOR. If you type in, and the URL is visor.io. And if you go to visor.io in terms of I instead of Y, you're going to get some nice Italian gentleman with some Italian web page. So make sure you stick to VY, not VI, SOR.io. And so when you go there, you will see this blue screen. As you can see, it says window to your Android. And this is for Android. This is not for iOS. So any Apple people here, you can leave right now because this is not for you. And so for the Android, then you can, very simple screen, as you can see. You can watch a video, you can learn more, you can download. So, I mean, as simple as you can get. And this particular app, and I shouldn't even say an app, it's basically like almost an environment. There's a mobile app to go with this. There's obviously the web component here that you download, install on your desktop, and actually run on the desktop. So there's a couple of things you need to do to get going. And as you can see at the top of the screen here, they have pricing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that to show you that they have a couple of options. So I'm using right now the free one because I wanted to try it and see how well it works. And I'm definitely going to be upgrading to the Pro version because you can buy a Pro version, as you see right there, for $40 one-time fee, lifetime, and you get updates and everything else. So basically, you can buy it for $40. More than worth it, in my opinion. I think it's an excellent. It's not perfect yet in terms of functionality, which I'll show you in a few minutes here, but it's a killer app in terms of being a efficiency enhancer for you in terms of working both at home and at work. I mean, it's an awesome app or environment, like I said, whatever you want to call it. And so, as you can see, they have two versions. The free version basically gives you mirror and control of your Android, and I'll show you how it works in a minute here. And at the same time, it shows you the basically you can take screenshots. So a couple of things you can do with the free version. And then everything else is in the Pro version. And by the way, in addition to the $40 possibility to buy it, you also have ability to pay monthly at $250 a month if you want, or pay $10 a year. So, if you really kind of prefer the SaaS approach, software as a service, then you can certainly just pay $250 a month for as long period of time as you wish, or short, or pay $10 a year, which of course is basically nothing for the functionality that you get back. And so this way you can get, if you don't think you're gonna use it for more than 4 years, then of course you can just pay $10 a year and be done with it. That's going to be less than $1 a month basically. So extremely affordable. I mean, it's totally worth it. And it's nice that the gentleman that wrote this thing gives you all these options here. Pretty nice. And so what do you get for the pro version if you do buy it using any of these plans? You get high quality mirroring. What that means, it means that when you see it, when I show you how it works, you will see that initially you go from screen to screen. The display is shown immediately, but it's shown in kind of like progressive mode. In other words, the quality of the graphic that you see is not ideal. It's kind of like it's a little bit blurry, and then it goes ahead and focuses into normal. So it takes it a second or so to get back into normal display, depending on your connectivity and things like that. With the pro version, you get it immediately. You get immediate high quality. Also, you can do full screen mode, which is something you cannot do with the regular version, free version, I should say. You can go wireless. Right now, I'll show you how my connection is. I have to plug in a wire from my computer to my phone to be able to use this application, this environment. And that's something you can totally avoid by being completely wireless if you use the pro version. I don't know what this visor share is. I can't tell. Maybe it's you sharing the screen with somebody or something like that. I'm not sure what that does, so I can't tell you. And drag and drop files, meaning you can just grab files from your desktop screen and drag them directly into this thing, and that's how you transfer it to the phone and back, which is just about as easy as you can get. And any other features that the developer provides going forward will be part of the pro. So I definitely recommend buying. I'm going to buy the pro version without any doubt, and I definitely recommend you do the same. But you can certainly start with the free one. Okay. So let's go back to how to set it up. Initially, to set it up, you just simply follow. You click on this Learn More, and he goes through the options. Very nicely set up. Tells you exactly what to do. Okay, so it tells you exactly what to do, pricing, all that stuff is all on that page. So you can kind of go through and see. Yeah, that's the Italian guy I was telling you about. If you go to the wrong URL, go and see precisely what you need to do. You can watch a video which kind of shows how it works and what should be done, and of course download the software. When you click on download, it gives you several options. You can download it for Windows. You can download it for Macs. You can download it for Linux, and for if you're running it in Chromebook or Chromebox, you can download it for Chrome as well. So basically, you can run it pretty much any environment you wish. But like I said, it is for Android, even though you can run it on Mac. It's specifically for Mac with Android, not with iPhones. Okay, so you just download the version you want here, and you just proceed forward from there using the instructions he supplies. And if you need any support, click on support here, and support has a number of different things in terms of if you have any problems or anything. And I had no problems installing it and running it. It was a couple of little quirks, but I mean nothing major. Definitely got it to work pretty quickly. So it shouldn't be an issue for you. I mean, obviously you got different phones, different computers, but it should not be an issue. I certainly got it up and running pretty quickly. Okay, so now without further ado, I'll show you what does this actually look like. And it looks like something like this. As you can see right there, this is my Android phone. It just went black. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the button here and bring it back to life. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock it. And there it is. You can see it kind of went a little bit hazy in terms of display, and then it went to this. And now I can do on the phone, I can scroll with the mouse right there. And I'm going to show you in a minute, looking at it, it kind of looks like, how do we know that you're not doing this with a finger on your phone or something else? And so it's much more impressive when you can actually see this being used. I think what I'm going to do right now is, yeah, I'll switch back to this so you can actually see what I'm doing here. So let me grab the camera. You already see me. You need to see me again. So I'm going to point to the screen here. You can see there's my monitor and there's that screen running on it, right? Right there. Okay. So what I want to show you in real time here is how the thing works. I apologize for the messy desk. Here's the phone. Okay. And as you can see, if I swipe my phone, you can see that the screen behind there changes as well to reflect. In other words, it's doing screen mirroring of everything I'm doing on the phone. Okay. So I can scroll. I can select an app. Let's say I click on the photo, and the photo comes up, and all my photos scroll through. And then again, it's kind of hard to see, but then if I don't touch anything, you can see it comes right back into focus. And I can click on the phone, and I can pull up whatever's on my phone. I can click on the back icon, and I can, so everything I'm doing on my phone, as you can see, is totally visible right there. If I go to play some video, let's see if we can find some videos here. Play the video here, for example.
We're getting
This is my son when we went to the mountains this weekend. He's trying to find out where there is. There's the mountain. Okay, so you can see it plays basically a little bit slower, but pretty close. Okay, so we'll stop him, and I'm gonna get back out using the back button, and it goes right back here. And if I click on the on my home button, then it'll go back to the home screen, and I can pick a different app. Pick the news app, and it will pretty quickly. As you can see, it's not immediate, but it's pretty quickly. Comes up with that, and then we see the lunatic from Korea, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's how the mirroring part works. Okay. Now, in addition to that, let me show you how it's hooked up. So basically, it's a regular USB cable. It's plugged into my computer down there. It's just USB, and then over here it's micro USB, that's plugged in here to the phone where the charger usually goes. I mean, so it's pretty straightforward. You just use a cable and that's it. And then the key thing is when you hook it up, you want to make sure that your settings. In fact, let's switch back to the screen share, so I can actually show you a nice print without no jerkiness or anything. So you can see on the screen right here that if I go to my settings, the main thing that you need to do is you want to make sure your developer options are turned on, and the instructions will show you how to do that. And then, so you need to have this as part of your settings for the phone. The developer options need to be enabled. And then what you're doing is you're finding an option called USB debugging under the debugging section of developer options, and you want to make sure it's turned on. And so when you turn it on, that makes it gives it the ability to talk and to do. One of the nice side effects of using, I mean, this is all you really need to do. One of the nice side effects of using this approach with cable, if you do use the cable, and like I said, you have to use the free version, you have to use the cable. It allows you to charge the phone at the same time from your computer. So as right now I'm at 100% charged, I don't really care. But if I'm working and say it was down to, I don't know, 60%, 50%, 20%, whatever it was, it doesn't really matter. You can, by hooking it up and being able to use it like I'm using it, then you're able to go ahead and have the phone be charged slowly. It doesn't do the fast charge, slow charge, but it still charges it. So over time, if you're working for a few hours, your phone gets charged as kind of a side effect. And so what else can you do? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you that I'm actually going to be using the mouse. Okay, I'm not using the phone. I'm using the mouse on my computer, and you can see there's the cursor there. So as you can see, I'm moving around my desktop, and this is just another window which I can position anywhere I want. It's just simply another window. Okay, the full screen mode is if I try to crank it up to full screen, you can see it'll come up and say visor can only be enabled in settings, and of course then it'll tell me that you have to use the Pro version to be able to do that. Okay, so I can't do it right now until I get the Pro. One of the other things that's happening with the regular version is that I think he does it every 30 seconds or something like that, he puts up an ad. And of course I can easily close this ad, But at the same time, if you don't want the ads, it's another reason to buy the thing, because the guy needs to make money for doing this, and he totally deserves it. So if you want to support the effort, that's how you support it. So this eliminates all the ads, everything. It's just normal functionality. If I want to pull down the notifications, I can just click up at the top and pull it down by dragging the mouse on my desktop. Exactly, when I say desktop, just dragging the mouse. Okay, forget the desktop part. But I'm saying right now I'm not touching the phone. I'm strictly using the app itself on my desktop, is what I'm trying to say. And so there's my notifications. I can move them back by just dragging them back or drag them down again. And if I want to select this particular whatever it might be, like for example, let's say I select this particular notification here. It's from Google Plus for this particular event, so it's actually going to go. Okay, looks like people are asking for some things, but I don't know if we'll get to it. We'll see. So you can see it went right in there, and if I use the mouse to scroll, then I can scroll just like I would scroll on the phone. I can scroll with my mouse just like I would scroll with my fingers, up and down, no problem. I can click on this arrow with my mouse, and then you can see the phone. So in other words, I'm not touching the phone right now, but at the same time, that's exactly what I'm doing, is I'm controlling the phone completely just using my mouse. Okay? When it becomes even more useful is, let's say I wanted to reply to David here, for example. So I +1 this particular, keep in mind, we're running Google Plus app on the phone right now, right? So I +1 it by simply clicking on it with my mouse from my computer. I click on comments, for example, and it's going to open up the comment deal. And I can say, we'll just put in something like nice article. So when I click in the comments, notice that the Gboard, the keyboard for Android from Google comes up. Just in other words, everything works exactly as if I was doing it on my phone, except I'm actually doing it physically using mouse and keyboard on my computer. Okay, that's the key thing to understand, that I'm not only seeing my phone in a nice big display in front of me on my 24-inch screen TV here. Obviously, it's only using a part of it horizontally, but vertically, you can see it's much, much bigger than the phone. So it's much more readable, much easier to see and access. And at the same time, I can use the mouse from my computer to click and scroll and move things, okay, and drag things. And I can use the keyboard to type. And the keyboard, not on my phone, but the keyboard on my computer. So I'm going to say, nice post, comma, we'll say David. Spell David properly, David Chandland. I can just click on David here. Move this a little bit to the side like this, and do it this way. Okay, and then I just had this other menu in my way, and that's why it wasn't letting me do this easily. I couldn't get to it. So, and then I click on post, and it should post it. Okay, so that's essentially how easy it is to just use the keyboard, use the mouse to do whatever you want to do on the phone. If I wanted to send a text message to somebody, I could go to the let's go. I'm going to click on the home key on the phone. So now I'm going to show you what's happening right now. I clicked on the home key using the phone itself, and of course it jumps right to the desktop there because to the home. Notice that at the bottom, this particular version, because I can't go full screen, you can barely see the bottom options on my phone. So like the home, the back, and all of that. So I can either use the phone itself to scroll. So right now I'm using the phone, using my finger to scroll. and I can go into the Hangouts app, for example, from here, and then I can go ahead and, for example, send a message to Ben by clicking here and simply typing a message. Say hi and hit enter. Okay, and so I actually type the message on my keyboard. I use the, I clicked the one of the things with the mouse. I also did some stuff with my finger on the phone. So right now, if I wanted to go to the home screen, all I have to do is use the pointer, if I want to do the computer, to click on that bottom part where the home key normally is, right there, and it's going to jump right back to the home screen. So in other words, you have complete interoperability between using the keyboard and the mouse on your computer and between using your fingers on your phone. It works completely seamlessly, so you can switch between the two anytime you want, whenever you want. If you want to do everything with the mouse and you look at display that way, you can do it that way. If you want to do it with just the phone, you can still see a nice big display, and you can scroll with your finger and click on whatever things you want to click on, and it's going to come up on your big screen, and you can see it, and you can if you want to use the phone to type in, you can use the phone to type. If you want to use the keyboard, obviously much more convenient in this case, use the keyboard. So it gives you this screen mirroring, number one. Number two, it gives you access to your computer's resources such as mouse and the keyboard, and then you can interact. You can interface with whatever you're doing any way you want using any of those resources. It's completely interchangeable, whatever is more convenient. If it's more convenient for you to go to home screen by clicking on the home button on the phone, you click on that and it goes there. If it's more convenient for you to go to the home screen by clicking on the screen here itself on the home button, you can kind of see it a little bit from the bottom there. Then you click on that, and that'll take you to the home screen. So either way, it works either way. So that's basically the visor. I certainly recommend that you download, install it, and try using it, because talking about it is good, but using it is actually a totally different experience. And that way, like I said, if you use the free version, which he lets you use for as long as you want, and you are willing to live with the limitations of a little bit slower, a display not quite as crisp immediately, not being able to go to full screen, and some other whatever new features are coming along, you'll have to re-download, reinstall it if you want to be able to use those, I'm sure. Then you just purchase it for either $250 a month or $10 a year or $40 one time, and then you eliminate all these issues. But it's a great app and great environment. You do need to download the one on the phone from the Play Store, as well as download the software on your computer. And once you get it going and get it set up, that's pretty much it. It's as simple as that. You could, play games on this thing, I'm sure. I never tried it, but let's try it. So if we scroll, so right now I'm scrolling using the computer mouse. Let's get to the third screen where I have games. It doesn't see sometimes. Oh yeah, you can also scroll. I'm scrolling the. Okay, there we go. And you can use the scroll wheel, by the way, to flip screens, because if you drag it, sometimes it's not sure where to go, so it kept showing me the same screen. So you can just use the scroll bar it's much easier to scroll screens that way. So if I click on my game launcher, so right now I'm clicking with the mouse, and let's see, we could try. Now I'll just try reversing. It comes up there, and I click on play. And so right now I'm using the mouse for everything. I'm not touching the phone at all. And I'm just looking at the big screen there. And by the way, your phone, of course, screen will continue to show everything too as it's sitting there. So you have the monitor and the phone screen working at the same time. As you can see, it looks nice. It works not as fast as the phone itself, but fast enough. As you can see, I'm clicking, it's doing its thing, and so on. And so if I wanted to jump out, again, I can click on the home screen button, home button, to jump back out and go to the first screen. If you want to make calls, you can. You can make a phone call. The only thing with the calls is, at least this version, it will go through regular speaker. It's not going to go through your computer. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have volume high enough, you turn speakerphone on, you can certainly do it from here. You can dial from here, search for people, do whatever you want to do that way. But Hangouts, all of that, everything basically works. There's no limitation about how the apps work. And so you have your full environment that you would have on your phone. You just have it in a much bigger display, and you have the convenience of using your mouse and using your keyboard on the computer to interface with your phone. So it's really slick. And and of course, I usually have it sitting on the side as I'm working on something else. And if something comes up and I hear the chime, then I just click on the visor screen to bring it back up again. There it is. And then I can see if it's an email message. I can jump into email. Of course, I can still check email on the computer too. I don't have to do that. And the idea here is to have something that works better for you. So whatever environment you choose to have, if the phone is better, then you use the phone interface. If the computer, you use the computer. You can use either one, however you want, and any kind of combination of things. And so it's almost like bringing the Android experience to the desktop using this, which is pretty slick. Okay, so with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Again, the software is called Visor. That's VYSOR.io. That's the website you go to. And then you download the software to your phone, download the software to your computer, go through the instructions to set it up, and then start using it. If you have any questions, please leave them on Google Plus for me. I'll be happy to respond. And I hope you find this useful, and I certainly have. And thank you. Till next time.